To start this project, we need to use watercolor paint to paint our background. We are going to be using the liquid watercolor. You will be using blue and purple only, but you'll have some diluted blue, which will mean that it will be lighter, and some full strength blue, which will be super dark. And you can experiment with that wet on wet technique. What that means is that you paint with plain water first, and then you kind of let your watercolor paint flow and spread around on its own. Anytime that watercolor touches another bit of water on your paper, it will start traveling into those wet sections. So you get to kind of control where those colors spread and ooze around on your paper. As your paper gets more and more full, you're going to start just filling in those white spaces, sometimes with just plain water, because you know that once you touch the other watercolor sections, that water color will start to move. At the end, you can pick up your paper a little bit and let those colors drip and shift around on your paper until you are happy with it. The very last thing we're going to do is sprinkle some rock salt on your paper, because as our paint dries, it's going to leave these kind of icy little spots all over our paper to add to the chilly temperature of the climate where our polar bear lives. On a separate sheet of paper, we are going to use our thick black Sharpie to draw our polar bear. We are going to start with 2 rainbow lines down at the very bottom for his little polar bear paws, and then a big rainbow line that bumps and jumps from one paw to another for his head, kind of peeking up out of our paper. 2 more rainbow lines for some polar bear ears. And then we're going to go in and start to add our details. He's going to have a circle for his polar bear snout and a little triangle nose filled in black. I don't add a mouth here, but later I do go back and add it. So if you want to add that now, I will show you how to do that. 2 solid black eyes and 2 more rainbow lines to kind of show the insides of his ears. I'm going to give him 3 little lines on each paw to show his claws. After that, we're going to cut very carefully around the outside of our polar bear so that all that we have is our polar bear head and paws kind of all stuck together in one piece, and we don't need that background paper because we're going to be gluing him down to our beautiful watercolor. But before we do that, we want to use our chalk pastels to add a few details. We're going to fill in a little bit of pink in his ears and massage with our finger to spread it out. Then I'm going to very lightly, not too much, very lightly trace with my black chalk pastel over those black lines. And then I'm going to go and massage on the edge. That's just going to give him a little value. It's going to help him to look like a fluffy, soft polar bear instead of just a flat piece of paper. It's going to give it a little bit of value, which also can add to this idea of form, that it is a 3D shape and not a flat shape on a flat piece of paper. So like I said before, here's kind of where I decided, oh yeah, I want a mouth. And so I go in and I add that with my marker. Now my watercolor paper is dry. You can see my cool icy crystals left over by the rock salt. I am going to use a skinny brush and some white paint to just dot around some little snowflakes. Nothing too detailed and nothing too busy. Just a few snowflakes here and there to really help complete that icy wintry scene. Once that has dried, all I have left to do is to glue on my polar bear. Now I'm going to use an extra sheet of copy paper to help me press my polar bear down, because I don't want to rub my hand over all that beautiful chalk that I added. So I did dot, dot, not a lot with my glue. I'm going to place my polar bear where I want him. Then I'm going to use that messy sheet to really rub and make sure he is glued and stuck all the way down. And I should have a beautiful polar bear completed.